I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. He used to talk to us from Colorado, but now he's in New Jersey. Does that change your perspective at all on what's going on, Rick?
Well, only that I'm a little more relaxed here. You know, I'm having a semi-vacation, and it's a very nice spot. I'm staying with a friend who does a lot of sailing. We have easy access to the inlet, the ocean, the bay, and it's just a great place to be.
Rick, it looks like we're coming off the record highs that the Dow set. Yes,
in a very interesting way, too. You know, I've tracked a couple stocks as absolutely crucial bellwethers. One of them was Amazon. And it just so happens that a target I put out in June with the stock trading around $9.50 or so, I put out a 1,083 and 31 cent target, and that's exactly where Amazon topped. So my subscribers were able to get short, and the problem is the corrective move that's occurred was supposed to stop this morning at 974.80. And you could see on the opening, Amazon was eager to break through that, what I call a hidden pivot support. So I can only say that when stocks turn violent, at least using my hidden pivot method, they become very easy to predict precisely as to the high and low swings. So, and this was my experience during the dot-com crash. The crazier stocks get, paradoxically, the easier they are for me to forecast. So this morning, when Amazon crashed to 974.80 hidden pivot support, it changed the picture, because even though when these stocks hit their rally targets precisely, that's neutral. We like to see the targets get exceeded by a little bit to suggest that the bull market's going to continue. But lately, we've only been getting exactly to the target, and then these stocks start falling. So we're still neutral up to the point when that fall, that ABCD correction, starts breaking through its D targets, and that's exactly what happened this morning with Amazon. So I'm watching very closely. I've got a couple other bellwethers that I'm paying very close attention to. One of which is Boeing. Boeing had 10 more bucks to go to get to what looked like a very important target around 257, I believe it was. And I'm also watching because the long-term weekly chart has a very clear bull market target at 168 range. And that goes back to 2013, very long-term. And it looks like the way the chart looks, I would expect that target to be reached. But right now, Apple is down a little bit, not a little bit. For Apple, it's down, maybe 3%. But I'm eager to. It can turn around and fulfill that target that looks so compelling. So it's. I wouldn't even say it's a mixed picture. There's definitely some threatening things happening on the technical side.
Which one would you say is the riskier index right now? S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, or are they all equal?
Well, they're not equal. They'll be co-equal when they all start falling, simultaneously. But you're not going to see too much divergence in this market. It's the overstuffed, overinflated. It's just a gas bag. So you did see a little bit of rotation when they were taking Amazon. You had this anomalous situation where Dow was making new highs, but that only lasted for a couple days. And I think all the indexes are dangerous, but of course the ones with some of these lunatic stocks that the institutions, Google, Priceline, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, are particularly vulnerable.
Well, the FANGs have been the darling of the stock markets now for the last 2-3 years almost. Does that tell you that when you get onto something that's too popular, that's also the riskiest?
Well, these bozos can't walk and chew gum at the same time. They basically get locked on some theme, and they all kind of hang together. So the theme for quite a while has been, hey, let's buy these 5 stocks. So they're all geniuses. They get their bonuses. The bull market continues. It looks like win, 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 win. Everybody wins. The companies, the corporate officers get to exercise their stock options, and everybody collects. And you look at it and you think, well, this is a perpetual motion machine. But if you've been around long enough to see 4, 5, 6, 7 bear markets over time, you know that whatever we're thinking at the top, that this is going to go on forever, we're going to be disabused of that idea.
Why do you think people get the impression that good times will last forever? Because every market at some point corrects.
Well, you just tend to, do a straight line extrapolation of whatever's going on, and you look at all these factors that have been supportive of the market. Low interest rates bring all the companies in, even the ones with surplus cash in the tens of billions of dollars. They'll borrow. They can do so almost for nothing to buy in their own shares, which has the effect of pushing up their earnings multiples. And when you get the institutions in on this game, it really does look like a perpetual motion machine. And as we find at the top of just about every bull market, we're scratching our heads wondering, well, what could possibly end this all? And as I said, we'll tend to think that it was threatening remarks, these threats from Kim Il-un, and that's the way it looks now. But in the end, the market was just in a technical sense, and by because of the influence of, let's say, the cosmos in ways that we'll never completely understand, a bear market was simply due to start.
Yes, we always like to attribute certain things to something happening. So if a comet was going by right now, people would blame the comet if the markets went down. Absolutely.
That's always going to be true. And so Kim's getting the blame, but, and there's no question that some exogenous, absurd, black swanish, shock, like, threat of nuclear war, it's a little crazy, we haven't seen anything like this in, forever. When you even go back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, at least we knew that, the Russians were sane and they really didn't want to start a war. But of course we have to make a different calculation with this, nutcase sociopath who's in charge in Korea. And of course we've got more rational, but obviously, evil actors in Iran that are watching the situation very closely.
We'll have more with Rick Ackerman right after the break.
Lotus Ventures Inc. is a BC-based medical marijuana company poised to launch into the rapidly evolving cannabis sector. Lotus is in the final review stage of the Health Canada approvals to become a licensed producer, having arranged facility financing of up to $12 million, plus building permits for its prototype indoor production facility. Shares trade under the symbol J on the Canadian Securities Exchange. Visit our website at lotusventures.ca.
I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain's Brunswick property is located in the Rideout Shear Zone in Ontario. With grab samples running as high as 32 grams per ton gold, a drill program will commence this spring to test the numerous targets located by recent groundwork. For more information, visit our website, rmroyalty.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rick Ackerman. Rick, what do you feel the possibilities of a real shooting war with North Korea are?
I think they are at least 50%. And the reason being, you really can't let a threat like this pass. You have to take forceful action. Otherwise, we're going to encourage not only something crazy in its already crazed dictator, but we could also push Iran to test Trump's mettle as well. So I think we really have to make a tough response here, and I have my doubts that Korea is going to back off just from a war of words. So I would say there's a better chance of a shooting war developing here than we've seen in generations.
And if people want to know just how unbalanced the leader is, he had his ex-girlfriend machine gunned to death, and the head of his Air Force was blasted to death by anti-aircraft guns after he dared fall asleep during one of his 10-hour speeches.
Right, and there was also that assassination at the airport. You know, it was right out of the Russian KGB handbook, where the woman took the handkerchief, I think, and put it on the guy's face, and
his half brother.
You know, that sounds like the Bulgarian contingent of the KGB. But so he really is a nut job, and of course he does have his finger on the nuclear trigger. North Koreans are reported to have, I think it's over 60 nuclear devices. So they definitely pose a real threat, especially with this guy Kim in such an unstable state of mind.
And you don't have to put them on a ballistic missile either to make them dangerous. There's lots of different ways to deliver the weapons. They could just put them in a shipping container.
Well, they could. I've got a feeling that we're monitoring shipping containers a little more closely than you would be reading about in the mainstream press. And not only that, I think that our preemptive or even retaliatory capacity with respect to North Korea is something that we don't hear much about technologically speaking. You know, we could possibly have an electromagnetic pulse weapon that would put North Korea's its war designs back in the Stone Age. They might as well come at us with spears when we're done with that kind of when we use that type of weapon.
You'd have to get permission, you think, from places like China and Russia?
Well, there's no question that we've got to involve China in the discussions here. They're the only ones who can really bring North Korea to heel. And you know, so it's absolutely crucial that we involve China, but also South Korea and Japan. They are our allies. They're also capable of helping us tactically. But of course, South Korea, Seoul has quite a big stake in anything that might happen.
Yes, South Korea has the misfortune of having their capital city within artillery shot of the North Korean border.
Right. You can bet that Kim would throw everything he's got at South Korea if there were even, you know, one shot fired by the U.S. In North Korea's direction.
In other words, we'd probably see a huge buildup of U.S. and allied troops in South Korea before anything happened.
Well, you know, you say huge, but relative to what Kim has to put at his border, I think their army is I figure I remember it was 1.4 million troops. So that would cause quite an invasion. You know, if he decided to invade South Korea, it would be very difficult to stop that. It would be an absolute avalanche of, or I guess that's the wrong word, but there's more North Korean soldiers than you can possibly shoot at.
And as we saw in the Korean War, the North has no compulsion or pullback when it comes to how many troops they might lose.
Right, that's true, and of course, because of that, the close proximity, the troops could actually, could say, infiltrate. They would be merged with the civilian population in South Korea almost instantly, and it would make it impossible to conduct war, but it would also make it a fait accompli that North Korea would have seized the South.
We'll have more with Rick Ackerman right after this.
Ackerman Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Ackerman's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at ackermanresources.com.
Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage, HowStreet.com. Welcome back. We're chatting with Rick Ackerman. Rick, I've noticed gold has been making some, I don't know, are they big bounces, $10, $12 at a time, up or down?
I don't see this as the real deal in gold. It's slightly bullish that gold has exceeded the, I believe it was a 1288 target that I began the day with today. But, my long-term view of gold is bullish, but it's bullish in the same way that my long-term outlook for treasury bonds and the dollar is bullish. And what that means is that when things finally turn, all three of those things are going to take off with a vengeance. The only problem is that when you see a move that big, essentially a tectonic shift of investable assets on planet Earth, it means something huge has happened. And so as bullish as I've been on gold and the dollar and T-bonds, I saw them as in kind of a holding pattern or corrective patterns until something really huge changes in the way that we view the economic world. So that may be happening as I speak, and it's possible that this move in gold is the real thing. But if that's the case, it means that this huge shift in the way we perceive investments and the global economy is undergoing a giant change from giddy bullish to we're not going to be despairingly bearish quite initially until the market wrenches itself downward precipitously several times. So anyway, I'm just looking mainly from a technical standpoint. I want to see these different vehicles exceed their rally targets in the way that I calculate those targets. I use ABCD patterns, and I don't want to see a rally merely get to the D target. I want to see it blow past it. So that hasn't happened yet, but as I mentioned, the flip side of that is we're starting to see corrective moves in the stock indexes, the S&Ps, and key stocks like Amazon. We're starting to see them exceed their D correction targets. So let's just say the bearish activity is it's looking more definitive right now, or let's say more decisive than any correspondingly bullish move in T-bonds, gold, and the dollar. They haven't quite taken off in the way that the market seems to be breaking down.
The copper market has enjoyed quite a charge. I remember not too long ago it was like $2.04, and now it's almost $3.
Even though I have a technical indication that's bullish for copper, it basically on some of the longer term charts broke out above a previous peak, and that is what I call an impulsively bullish move. Even though that's happened, I think that the move in copper is part of the huge, the gigantic global error that has caused bonds and the dollar to recede so precipitously. As far as I'm concerned, the whole world, all the funds, all the big guys, the smart guys, I'm convinced that they have it completely wrong in bonds. The bond story was always driven by the Fed hoax about right around the corner, and we're going to have a pretty good the economy starting to perk. And recently the cheerleaders at the Wall Street Journal have kind of backed off that story with something equally far-fetched, and that is that the global economy is starting to warm up in a way that would somehow offset a lackluster U.S. economy. But that's crazy. The U.S. is really the engine of the global economy, And because you can see in the U.S. economy very clear signs of trouble, mainly the automobile market has absolutely topped. This is something you and I have been talking about for maybe 6 to 8 months. It was in your face obvious that was happening. And it's happening in the housing market as well. You know, I think prices have peaked, and I'm a little bit closer to that than the average stock analyst, or my house is for sale in Boulder. And, it became clear to me that the realtors came into this season all fired up by this phony headlines that the Fed generates, all the spun headlines about economic recovery and the global economy starting to cook. It was all bull. So the realtors were thinking, the season would be great guns, but the buyers were not sufficiently convinced to come in and pay bubble prices in the real estate market. So I've had to come down on the price of my house huge. And, I could see it coming a month ago. And, to me, it really reflects the true condition of the economy, that, your housing buyers this season, are nowhere near the bubble prices that the realtors had expected to get. So, all right, with housing and autos rolling down, the U.S. economy is, it's this phony recovery that never really reached much beyond Wall Street is starting to fade. So I don't care what they're saying about China and they even, I guess France is included when they talk about Europe's economy starting to come back. Well, that's just a load of bull, because France, for one, in the age bracket 18 to 35, they've got unemployment that exceeds 25%. So if that's what passes for recovery in Europe, you know how phony the story is. So anyway, we're at a watershed point here, and as I said, I'm keeping my eye on just a couple of very important stocks.
Rick, always fascinating to chat with you.
And always a pleasure to talk with you, Jim. You ask great questions.
My guest has been Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. He was speaking to us from the Jersey Shore. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show or our guests can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.